In Britain, metro mayors are now redefining the political landscape of the UK. Once disregarded as a mostly symbolic role, metro mayors like Andy Burnham are now pursuing further autonomy and becoming even more powerful and important in regional politics. So, how did metro mayors become so important in modern politics? In 1997, New Labour had just come to power, and as part of their manifesto promised to reform the United Kingdom's political system to reflect a more modern and vibrant country overall. Referendums were subsequently held in the nations and regions of the UK, Scotland, Northern Ireland, England and Wales to determine if a devolved assembly had the majority support. Subsequently, Northern Ireland, Scotland and Wales all voted in favour and received their assemblies with legislative powers over transferred matters set out by Parliament. Even though Parliament was willing to devolve it, it didn't give up its power. That's because for all the devolved assemblies, Westminster reserves the right to rescind the so-called transfers matters back, as a way of ensuring that if the devolved assemblies fail or are incapable of governing, that politics and management continue nevertheless. As part of this spree of devolution and referendums, the new Labour government decided to begin planning referendums in the regions of England, asking if they too wanted their devolved assemblies with transferred matters devolved and greater, more localised representation. Whilst the North East was the only referendum held, there were plans to also hold them in the North West and the Yorkshire and Humber region. But the referendum in the North East was overwhelmingly rejected, casting doubt over the entire concept of devolved assemblies in England, and the other planned referendum were never held. During the campaign season, it was argued that the assembly would simply create an additional, unneeded layer of bureaucracy that would cost the taxpayer more, whilst supporters argued it would bring greater local autonomy and be more representative. Though, after the referendum results, the concept was shelved. This still left the Lothian question unanswered. The Lothian question refers to how voters in the devolved assemblies regions have a greater political say than English voters, as they can still vote on English bills that will only impact England and not them, as it is one of their transferred powers. Over the years there have been many ideas to resolve this, but the most important is English votes for English laws, often simply referred to as ELEV. From 2015 to 2021, this legislation was active. It stipulated that the Speaker of the House would determine if a bill needed ELEV certification. If it did, then the Public Bill Committee would only have English MPs, and if debated in the House of Commons during this stage, only by English MPs. This process answered the Lothian question, but in 2020 the bill was suspended due to the COVID-19 pandemic. After this, the legislation was discarded and removed from the legislative process by the Conservative government, which argued that the legislation simply added an unneeded extra layer of bureaucracy. Though, with English regional assemblies off the table, new solutions were drawn up. In Manchester, a new combined authority would be created as a test run, and across the country referenda would be held asking larger regions and cities if they wanted to introduce a directly elected mayor to replace older council systems. In 2022, just 16 mayors of this sort have been introduced, all of which are in England, as most of the referenda results rejected directly elected mayors outright. In Greater Manchester, the authority with its transferred powers was able to manage strategic investments, transport policies, investment frameworks, and even more after getting a boost in 2012 by a city deal with the government. The success of the GMCA brought attention to the concept and proved the concept of authorities, paving the way for further metropolitan devolution. Currently, as of the recording of this video, there are 10 combined authorities, but currently there are many more proposals for devolution elsewhere, with one concept being One Yorkshire, a huge combined authority made up of nearly the entire modern-day county. It was first announced in 2014 that directly elected mayors would be introduced in a devolution revolution to create a new layer between councils and Whitehall, the first of which was to be Greater Manchester, but soon most combined authorities introduced a directly elected mayor, who serves as the head of the combined authority and as a means of direct accountability. After the final ballots were counted, Andy Burnham was announced as the first new Metro Mayor as the 11th member and chair of the Greater Manchester Combined Authority. As chair of the authority and as mayor, he is responsible for the budget, transport and housing policy. Recently, he has been pursuing a major change in transport policy, aiming to transition the bus sector in Manchester from a mainly private system to franchising, in line with how London operates its metropolitan transport and buses. This new network is going to be operated by Transport for Greater Manchester and demonstrates the huge impact metro mayors and combined authorities can now have. And whilst Manchester is the leader in its transport policy drive, its neighbours in West Yorkshire and Liverpool are keeping a close eye on its progress as they consider their own transport policy, goals and agenda. Furthermore, metro mayors and combined authorities have become more and more widespread and popular as new combined authorities are being formed and given devolved responsibilities, like in North Yorkshire, where they quite recently agreed to form a new authority. And with the general political consensus on the matter, it seems that even more devolved regions will come in the future as well, with its existing members slowly becoming more and more prominent in politics across the country. So that's how metro mayors became mainstream, and a brief insight into what they're doing with the devolved responsibilities. As always, thanks for watching Thoroughfare, and I wish you all the best. Goodbye!